Musical Talk, the UK's independent musical theatre podcast. Hello and welcome to another edition of Musical Talk. I'm Thos and I continue with my quest to find gardening-related musicals. So I wondered if you'd like to join me in seeing Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hydrangea, featuring the songs I Need to Sow and Letting Grow. Well, placing that introduction firmly behind me, let's look forward to this week and indeed next week here on Musical Talk, because I'm excited to bring you a lengthy, in-depth conversation over 2 episodes with the wonderful Zach Burns. Now, Zach Burns is a composer, a writer, a performer, a comedian, a coach, a choral singer, a jazz performer, and rather a lot more on top, as you'll find out over the course of these 2 episodes. But more than that, he's actually a jolly nice chap, and, as I've mentioned, comedian, he's also naturally very funny. And as I hope you'll hear over this conversation, he and I had a fabulous time in each other's company. He's such a funny man. And for the purposes of musical theatre, he was the original creator of the role Dave the Nurse from Potty the Plant. Now, if you're a regular listener of Musical Talk, you'll know that Potty the Plant is a show that we raved about in 2023 and again in 2024, because it was our pick of the Edinburgh Festival Fringe in 2023. It came back in 2024, where it was still magnificent. It's been on at the Durham Fringe. It's been on at the Wilton's Music Hall in London earlier this year, 2025. And it's returning to Edinburgh for its hat-trick this summer. And it's a sign of Zach's enormous abilities in the world of musical theatre and music. But this year, he's not actually in the show, but he is the musical director of it. So he's still very closely involved in the show. And he is also a writer of musical theatre. And in next week's episode, we'll be hearing about his wonderful new musical about the creation and birth of the National Health Service, very much an institution here in the United Kingdom, in his new musical For All Time, written with his writing collaborator Ollie Adcock. And next week we'll be hearing an exclusive recording, just made, of the title song from that new musical. And if that wasn't enough, Zach is also incredibly knowledgeable about musical theatre. And so in our 2-part conversation, you'll hear us talk tangentially about anything that comes to mind. And so often what comes to mind will be a musical theatre reference. So next week, join us when we hear more from Zach Burns, talking about his new show For All Time, and his appearance at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe in 2024 in another show called Fringe the Musical. But in this week's episode, we'll be concentrating on his involvement in Potty the Plant over 3 years, both as a performer and as the musical director. And his career so far, which, as you'll have heard already, is enormously broad. A man of many talents. But you don't need me to tell you this. You'll have a chance to find it out yourself. So, I do hope that you'll listen to this, the first part of a conversation with the wonderful Zach Burns. Musical Talk, the UK's independent musical theatre podcast.
Hi, I'm Zach Burns. I'm an actor and a musician, which I think is where Thos
will come in.
And
Well, I think you're underselling yourself, if I may say, because I can see that you are online described in a number of ways, not necessarily by yourself, as a comedian, an actor, a musical theatre actor, a classical singer, a musical coach, a musical director, and a composer. Have I left anything out?
I do a very good rendition of The Spoon. So
I'll tell you what, if you can cook a souffle, I may marry you. But that's quite a wide range of things. And I think that makes quite a heady brew in terms of creative art, because the very clear thing that you're illustrating in spades in all the times I've seen you on stage or in conversation that we've been having before the recording here today is that you're a very creative man. And I quite like to explore those different facets of your personality and your skill set, but also see how they interlink. Now, I think it's going to be useful to talk about when I first saw you, because I was very impressed by you the very first time I saw you, because you were in the 2023 version of Potty the Plant, which was Musical Talk's pick of the Fringe for 2023. And as a show, is a show that we've been following here on Musical Talk because it's so bloody good. And right at the very beginning, you were so bloody good in it. You played Ginger Dave, the nurse, and you really impressed me on a whole bunch of things, but you were so funny. You really held the stage for a character who's a little bit of a stereotype, or rather a caricature, maybe a better way of putting it. So shall we just briefly talk about Dave the nurse, and then I'd like to explore how we got to Potty the Plant in your career and the many things that you've done. Because I'd love to know if you ever thought when you started out that would be one of the things on your enormous CV. So tell us about Dave the nurse, first of all.
Well, first of all, that's very, very kind of you to say.
No more than the truth, but leave the money in the usual place.
Very good. Yeah, Dave the nurse it first came about because Baden Burns, who's wrote Potty the Plant, so he came to me and he said, I've got a part that I think you would very much enjoy. And he was playing me the demos of all of the songs from Potty the Plant. And I was like, this is phenomenal. The standard of music for the piece that you want to put together. Obviously, I'd seen the short film.
11 minutes.
11 minutes. Oh, 11 minutes of glorious wonder.
Yes.
And then he'd come up and he said he had all these different songs. And we started then talking about what the character of Dave was. Now, obviously, you've seen it, and I beg anyone who's listening to go and see it. It's a beautiful piece of theatre. The characters are not necessarily something that you would sit down and you would go, what is my motivation for this character? You're not sort of employing the Meisner technique to work out who these characters are, because as you say, they're quite caricaturist. Dave is quite caricaturist. He is Ginger. I think that is all we get.
Well, in fact, because he's one of three nurses who work together, and the other two nurses have a lovely song riff where they explain who they are in rhyming couplets, essentially.
Yes.
And then Dave comes on and says, and I'm Ginger.
And I'm Dave and I'm Ginger. And that's it.
And it just goes, that's it, stops.
Yeah.
And then they all pick up and move on again. Yeah. So,
And throughout the piece, that is the joke. The great thing about Potty the Plant is that it's very good at establishing jokes, and then all of a sudden they keep repeating. You keep calling them back, which is it's a lovely thing. But yeah, when it then came time to do it, they had envisaged Dave as being this quite, I want to say demure, but that's because I've got very demure, very mindful in my head. It's not necessarily the case. He a bit of a pushover.
So quite and unassuming in his way. Yeah, sweet-natured. But
sweet-natured, exactly. Yeah. And then I thought, well, what could he sound like? Because what does someone do that sound like? And is he just going to get bullied by everybody all the time? And then we sort of came around to something like this. He said, oh, very good. And as a result of that, they were like, yeah, we hadn't written him like that, but that's quite funny. Maybe just do that.
But once again, it's a heightened version of that unassuming role. Because actually, I really love the fact you just said something I thought was interesting there. That how do you make him more than a pushover? Because he is sweet-natured. The audience love him. And actually, he is an integral part of the gang. Every now and then they tease, stroke, bully him. More teasing, I think. But you get the sense it's an affectionate. They are a three. It's not two plus Dave hanging on. No. He's very much the least able of the three, but that doesn't make him so it seems. But that doesn't make him in any way less affable, charming, lovely, and he's not any less of that group of three nurses. No. So, and I think that side of that oomph that you've given him, yes, is actually thought through. I think that's the point I'm trying to make. It's an acting choice.
Yeah, it reminded me of whenever for example, I'm a sibling, and it was always
yes, good luck. So am I.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. Well, then I was a middle child, and so it's always like, oh, bring your brother along with you, and so the brother along comes along. And it was sort of that kind of vibe, and it also helps that as actors. So in the original, in the 2003. It was me, Sam Ridley, and Steph Cabello.
Yes,
and Sam Ridley and Steph Cabello are in the production now. And Steph Cabello is first of all, she's a phenomenal actor, and she's got a phenomenal singing voice. But also
Don't yell, Mel.
Don't yell, Mel. But she's one of the nicest people that I've had the pleasure of working with.
Oh, what's wrong with Sam then?
Oh, also equally gorgeous.
You did not fall into my trap.
No. The thing is, they're both too nice for me to hold them to. But what it does is it created a really nice sense of the three of us messing around with these characters that are sort of caricaturish to create then something that I hope is actually quite lovable.
Oh gosh, yes.
As a result, right? Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because in some ways they're almost the dynamic of the piece in a way that's hidden. What I love about Potty as a piece, as I've said this over and over again, is everything is subverted.
Yes.
You know, songs purport to be one thing and then are totally different. You know, the best example of that is It Made Me Unhappy, which is the most joyous, upbeat, happy song with a dance.
Yes.
And even has a dance break in it from Potty.
Baden has an ethos, which is it's not a musical if there isn't a tap dance. I agree. I fully agree. Yeah.
I shall phone the estate of Stephen Sondheim and let him know where he's been going wrong. So, you know, it's subversive all the way, and everything about it's subversive, including the nurses, because at some level the three nurses look like they are supplementary characters, and yet they are the ones who solve the mystery. They are the ones who decide that something needs to be done. Everyone looks to Potty, and Potty's involved, but really they are the movers and shakers. Without those nurses, the situation would not in any way resolve. They wouldn't have a plot. It's so interesting because they feel like they're extras, but they're the main story. Sorry.
First of all, that's a very generous reading of what is in fact, I would say in reality, just means that we don't actually stop moving for the whole hour. Or in this case, in Wilton's, I think it came to about an hour and 15.
Yes.
But, you know, you go off on the side of the wings, you're throwing stuff off in order to put stuff back on, in order to get back out there again. And as you say, you know, the Edinburgh Fringe is you're walking around everywhere anyway. You don't really stop from dawn to dusk.
People have got tree trunk legs by the time they get home.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a great Stairmaster exercise. Add on to that, then you're going in and you're doing a show where you don't stop. And I think at the end, I'm wearing like 3 layers of clothing, and of course the most sort of sticking on ginger wig that you can possibly imagine.
When it sticks on.
This is also the thing. The wig is, well, it's a figure of fun that the wig doesn't stay on. Yeah. So you add all that on top of it, and you end up with a role that is also incredibly fun to play, right? Because you don't stop. You've made all your choices. You don't stop moving. The action keeps going. The jokes don't stop.
Never.
As you're going. Never.
No.
We sort of worked it out. It's about one every 20 seconds, half
It's
a minute.
It's an amazing strike rate for mirth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Phenomenal. And also, you could really tell because we got into the first week of rehearsals and you didn't stop laughing, which I thought is always a great. I mean, what a great script to then come out.
What a wonderful thing to be able to do with one's life, if you don't mind me saying.
Well, exactly. And then to have it to stand there and have it reciprocated, to go, because you always get to the end of the rehearsal process of a comedy, and you've rehearsed all of the lines and the delivery and all of that, and you've worked it all out, and then it's not funny because within your own group, you're like, okay, excellent, that's how it is. And then you go out and all of a sudden you get the response.
The public remind you.
You that it is funny. And in fact, add things. I mean, the best thing about being in a production like this is the fact that you are still writing it. You know, we're in rehearsals for this version.
You're right, because at the time this episode goes out, it's back in Edinburgh. For its third year, it's hat-trick. And I know there are hopes and plans for the future. I'm looking forward. To be honest, I want to be able to say I was there when it becomes the well-deserved feature film.
Oh yes, of course. Yes.
But can I ask? It's interesting because tonally, well, it's moved on a little bit, and so has your role within Potty. And in a way, this also demonstrates your great versatility. But let's just stick with your role as Dave at the moment, which was the principal connection you had with it for the first couple of years or so. The show is not a sincere show. Funnily enough, since Wilton's, there is now a small moment of sincerity which is awarded to Potty and his unrequited love. But even then, that's set up by having the large human-sized Potty dancing, wearing a coat made of leaves, but very much in that sort of 18th century dress, which makes it completely Disney.
Yes.
So it's a beautiful sort of Disney pastiche going on, whilst a moment. So even the sincerity is being sent up and subverted, which is always what it's about.
Yes.
I want to ask you a question as an actor. How easy is it for you to play a character that doesn't have any sincerity, although is good-natured and affable, and and we, the audience, are expected to have empathy and do have empathy with? Is that easy? Is it hard when you? I mean, I'm assuming it's the context of the piece means that's not difficult, but or do you think they are just sincere within this heightened world?
I think. And again, I think, as you say, a lot of this, the comedy is in the insincerity, and it is fundamentally a comedy piece. I didn't go into it thinking, again, what is his character's motivation? But, as with everything, right, Dave does not find himself funny.
No.
If he found himself funny, it wouldn't be funny. So in every moment, he has to fundamentally believe that in what he's doing and believe in the genuine nature of the piece, right? He's given a song, famously, where,
Yeah, well, discuss the song, but this is a moment of sincerity for him. This is the then point I was going to make, that oddly, of all the people who in a show that's completely without sincerity, at least until a recent iteration, the one character who's allowed some sincerity, or looks like he's allowed to have some sincerity, is Dave. But something happens.
Well, something happens. And I don't think it's too much of a spoiler. I think the great thing about this is you can't, apart from there is a big spoiler, there is one, which I will not be revealing here, but the rest of it, I think, is very much up for grabs because it is not plot dependent.
Goodness no. No.
Plot, I mean, it's a Swiss cheese would possibly have, but that's the brilliance of it. And I think, so Dave comes on and he sings this song about how he's ginger but he doesn't care and he's going to suck through, and of course he then goes to sing the rest of the song and he gets interrupted. So he is the only character that nearly has an I Want song and then doesn't.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And also, funny enough, it oddly precursors something else, doesn't it? Because later on there's a speech about, I was always told that it didn't matter what other people say, but now I understand it's entirely important what other people think of me.
Yes, that's so terrible.
Yeah. I mean, but it's funny. And of course it's also set up, that's his journey, oddly.
Yes.
He's gone from sincere to
insincere, exactly, to taking entirely the wrong message. And of course, Baden was very clear, and Baden and Sarah were very clear that when they wrote it, that everybody should have an arc.
Yeah.
In the way that children's television of a certain era has that sort of vibe.
There's got to be some kind of payoff.
Yes, exactly. And there is, almost. But for Dave, when he is singing, he means every word that he says. And the more he means it, the more the sort of usurping and subverting of expectation matters. He's the butt of the joke. You're laughing. You're not really laughing with him. Really. No. Yeah, he's.
But I do love him.
Yeah.
If you love someone, as it were, if a character really, you buy into a character immediately and then stay with them, I think they can almost do anything.
Yeah, but that's kind of the genius of their writing, to write someone like that, which is then, of course, incredibly fun to play. The best thing about playing this character for 2 years has been that you get to walk into the theatre and you go, I am going to have a great time. And hopefully they're going to have a great time. And if they're not, you're with a group of people on stage that even if something happens or something goes wrong or something tips
can work around it?
Can very much work around it.
Oh yes, I mean, you can see there's such organic connection between everyone.
Yeah.
But am I right in thinking you're also the voice of Little Boo Boo's Hospital Radio?
No, I unfortunately you're not.
I'm wrong, am I?
The voice of Little Boo Boo's Hospital Radio is Sam.
Is it?
Yes, the vocal delights and tones of Sam Ridley. He's very, very good.
He is terribly good. Yeah. All right. Well, when I next speak to him, I shall compliment him. But,
yes.
But I thought it was you, I must say. I apologise.
No, that just shows exactly how good he is at sort of impressions, I think.
Now, Potty goes on from success to success, but in year 3, let's call it, because this is the 3rd year of Potty. It's been at Wilton's in London, it's going to Edinburgh this year. You're no longer Dave the Ginger Nurse, that's gone to Joe Winter, a very accomplished actor and very funny man in his own right.
Very much so.
But you are still connected with the piece in a very different way, which, I mean, I said at the beginning, there are so many things that you can do and do, but you're now musical director.
Yes.
So A, how did that happen? And B, how would how did you musically direct, well, not just this show in its particular tonality, which you know backwards, but in year 3 of its existence, what needed to be done?
Well, it was a very interesting. It came.
Well, I'll be the judge of that. Yes, quite. Yeah. Tell me, and I'll let you know.
It came about because it looked like, due to other commitments, I wasn't going to be able to make the Fringe this year, and the way that we have always done it was kind of as a group. So obviously Baden had a very clear vision, and so he would then direct us, but of course he's in a box the whole time. Which means that once you then start the show, he would then regularly joke, he'd be like, yeah, I've got about maybe 10% knowledge of what it is that you're doing. And he looks,
I can see your feet.
Yeah, exactly, I can see your feet. And your feet seem to be doing the right thing, so that's all very good.
But the rest of you were still somehow in the dressing room.
Somehow in the dressing room, what's going on? Yeah, were you there the whole time? And so, as a result, it kind of directed itself. Now, we had Aidan behind.
Aidan Sussex,
who's a co-creator. And he wasn't originally going to be involved, and then he saw how good it was, and was like, right, I'm going to be involved. And so
could I just say that terribly sweet story of when I met him in 2023, he was always on because I came to see it several times, and he was always on the verge of having only been up for a few days to see how it was going, and then he was going to go back home.
Yes.
And he kept delaying it, and I think he was there for... Yes. Perfect.
And since then, he has been sort of 100% in it. It's excellent. And my relationship with him has grown over the years, and
He's a lovely fellow, Aidan.
Lovely bloke. And he would then always come in and be like, yeah, they laughed at this, they didn't quite laugh at this. We're always tinkering. And then when it came to this, I was like, well, if I can't be there for the Fringe, I would love to be there for Wilton's, and obviously same cast, but I would love to musically direct if that's okay. And I had been kind of doing it on the side, and sort of we would work out harmonies on the fly and that sort of stuff. But I just finished my master's degree in musical theatre.
Yeah, you're musically adept, aren't you?
Yeah, I can play all the panpipes and whatever it is you need to play. But and so as a result,
sorry, is that the first instrument they ask you to play?
Oh well.
Or actually, when people play the panpipes, it's usually the last instrument they're allowed to play.
Exactly. Yeah. You bring it out unprompted in conversation. It always works wonders. But so then I was like, I would really love to do this, and we were running auditions, and so I was sort of playing the piano and all that sort of stuff, and we were having conversations about writing music and writing musicals and what it is that you wanted to achieve. And a lot of this, Baden went away in the way that he always does, and he has this vision in his head, and he added loads of little orchestrations and all that sort of stuff. And I was listening to it, and I was like, this is the greatest. It is a piece that lends itself to sort of being bombastic, completely unearned, completely unnecessary. There is, I think we've added, I don't know, no, that wasn't me, he added timpanis in at the end, bom 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 bom, but like, which is Wicked-esque sort of end of the Firebird type sort of stuff.
Or 2001.
Very 2001. And so we were then coming to how do you then musically direct something like this? And I was always my favourite bit out of all the musical directing. A is working with everybody, but was B, I then got to redo Dave's song.
Oh, you did?
I added in like Titanic-esque Irish whistle into it, so he could sort of stare into the middle distance.
Yes, you're even. People can't see it, sadly, but you're doing that sort of two-handed, like something on the middle horizon, which I can't quite.
I've smelt something terrible. That sort of vibe.
I thought Joe did a good job.
Goodness me. Yeah, he's. Well, also just quick to say something about Joe. Joe and I have worked together, and we've been friends for a long, long time. And so when it came to sort of talk about who was going to be the next Dave, I was like, he's going to.
I love his interpretation, but he does it differently to you, by the way. I should just say that. Yes,
he's made a very specific choice to make him
more as written, perhaps.
More as written. Well, exactly. Yeah. And because Baden came in, he was like, we think this would be better more as written, and he's done it more as written and takes it very, he takes it very seriously, which is so hilarious because everything that's going on, it's all going to pot around him, and he's just sort of.
Well, he would with the name of the title. But
very good, very, very good.
But Joe does a lovely little thing I noticed because in the song it all adds up.
Yes.
The three of you as nurses have a very strong dance, which is all elbows and knees and kind of thing, and it's a very strong look as well.
Yeah.
And as you say, Steph and Sam, they're quite big people as well as actors.
Yeah.
And so they're really sort of belting it out.
Very, very strong movements.
And Joe is doing it Joe is doing it at 75%, not because he can't do it. No, but because Dave can't do it. If that makes sense. So Dave, he knows what the movements are, but it's all kind of
precisely like bring your brother along.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Your brother can do exactly the same thing, and he's coming along exactly. So I thought, well, how can we make the payoff of this song, this song that Dave sings, funnier? And I thought, I am a one for always, in every musical sense, an unnecessary modulation. So change the key, that's completely unearned. All that sort of stuff.
The old cab driver's gear stick thing.
Yeah. Well, you do it. So you go through, and if you need to raise the stakes, you raise the key, and everyone goes, "Oh, excellent!" So we raise the key just before we completely shut him off.
Yes, before the guillotine comes down.
Before the guillotine, exactly. And we Mary Antoinette the whole thing.
It did feel oddly more noticeable and less throwaway. So actually, that's been very successful. I think it maybe lingers just a little bit longer as well, which I think allows the audience to just invest enough into it for all that the rug pull to work more strongly.
And it was also kind of essential because that's a bigger stage than we've used before.
Yes, of course.
Which I don't know if you noticed, but you have to time. There's only a certain amount of music that you have to get people off the stage and onto the stage.
And things are happening. It's not just him on his own, is
exactly, and things are happening. So in order to sort of give that enough time to happen and to sit, you need that. It was very, very cool to be at Wilton's, which has stairs for the first time.
Steep stairs.
Steeper
than they look.
Back.
Yes.
So Potty is on a desk which has wheels on the bottom, wheels that do now have to be completely locked, because if they are not locked, it will roll.
If you're in the front, if you're sitting at the front of the audience, you may get a visitor.
Well, yes, exactly. Unwittingly from above. Yeah.
Can I tell you? I love rake stories because they're always hilarious. The Richmond Theatre has a very strong rake on its stage.
Right.
And I was talking to someone years ago who used to know a man who regularly played the tuba in the pit.
Right.
For the Richmond Theatre Panto every year.
Very good.
And he said it's usually fine, but the one they most dislike is Cinderella. because in a lot of versions of Cinderella, they bring on a Shetland pony at the end of Act 1 to make the audience, particularly if they're children, go, oh, it's sweet and adorable, and you are laughing, so I think you may have worked out what happened. Anyway, so one particular performance, so this is actually what happened, on comes the pony, everyone goes, oh, it's so adorable, and then the pony, presumably in a moment of stage fright, urinates furiously, and of course with the
furious urination story, yeah.
But because it's such a severe rake, obviously it just goes all the way in a torrent down towards the pit.
A biblical flood, if you will.
And so they could all see it coming, and they're all going, oh my God, don't get the paper wet.
No.
But if you're the man with the tuba, you've got a collecting vehicle there.
that leads directly to
your mouth. So that is why tuba players don't like Cinderella at Richmond Theatre, in case you were ever asked.
And you know what, if you had asked me that question without any context, I would not have guessed urinating Shetland ponies. So,
well, your life's the poorer for not second guessing that.
I think my life has been richer because of that story. Wow. Goodness, yeah, well, I'm sure. Well, that Wilton's musical stage is famously listed because it's a listed building. Yeah, it's listed. So,
well, you mean it's leaning?
Well, yes, in both senses of the word.
Yes.
Which means that if you fall over and you get a splinter, who is more sort of covered by public?
Oh, the building. Yes,
the building. Is it the building or yourself?
Don't bleed on the history.
Well, no, when we walked in, they of course said, there's the horse, there's the pillars in Wilton's musical. There's only one man in Britain who can repair those, so
really?
Don't touch them. And of course, everyone's leaning on the side of them, and you immediately.
Oh, I didn't know that. Really?
Yeah, that's what they told us.
What a specialist job.
I know. It's like the sort of person who repairs organs. I've always wondered what kind of a job that is. Anyway,
well, load of hot air.
Very good.
Yes, not terribly witty, but quite fast, I suppose. And sometimes that'll do. That's. I mean, I love Wilton's, but because it's preserved in a state of sort of disrepair, isn't it? It's a really weird.
Yeah.
It's obviously safe, but.
Well, I noticed because they've got boards at the side where they've painted it to look more in disrepair than it actually is.
Oh, really?
So I wonder the extent. Well, yeah, kept in a state of which really suits Potty the Plant. As sort
Which
of
is
a
gothic. Yeah, exactly.
Well, Gothic, it's sort of Gothic-esque, isn't it?
Gothic
with
a Q.
Good. Gothic.
Well, I did see a proper Victorian melodrama, Sweeney Todd and the String of Pearls, which was being done as a melodrama would have been. Even down to the fact the chap playing Sweeney Todd, the demon barber, says curses, or when the sailor character confounds him, he would go confusion. To say out loud what you're feeling is
Gadzooks.
yes.
Yeah. Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Oh,
and it works really well.
Does it work really well? The last thing I saw at Wilton's was the Improvathon. Have you ever?
Oh, I didn't see that. No.
It's done for charity every year, from Friday all the way through till Sunday.
So A&E.
All one big. Yeah, well, quite. And so if you hit it at Saturday at 4 a.m. and they're still going for charity.
That's pretty. Actually, that's the time to go in a way, though, isn't it?
Well, it's for some time to go, but for others, the time to stay.
time for not rhyming. Yes. Yes. In case people are wondering why we keep saying it is a line.
It is a line in the.
And it's one of Dave's lines.
It is one of Dave's lines. Yes.
But you were talking about musical directions, so it sounded like you were looking for musical overlay, comic overlay, enhancement. Did you have to do anything from scratch? I mean, you spoke about Dave's sort of abortive song, but
not necessarily. And I should say I don't want to take any credit for most of the actual orchestrations which were Baden. So Baden added them all in.
And of course he did the recording of the album last year, which you're on.
Yes, he did. That was a great experience to do that. And then to hear yourself back and you go, oh, that's how it sounds.
Yes,
it sounds very different in your head.
And did you like it hearing it back?
I did. I thought he took on a life of his own a little bit,
yes.
Which was, that's always very interesting to hear back, and also very nice to see what you can do with your own voice. If you say, right, this is an opportunity to do a silly voice and to do a silly voice for a character. It was lovely.
Is it hard to sustain a silly voice, or do you find it just becomes that character and
I think that particular voice, I had to find it, as with all voices, right? You have to find a place in your voice that it's sustainable to do.
Yeah, but it's comfortable.
Yeah, there's no point you doing a silly voice and then you can't sustain it for a run because then, you're going to hurt yourself. And actually, we had that conversation because the main bit of musical directing I did was vocally. So, going to the rehearsal and you make sure everyone's got their harmony line and everybody puts it together. And Joe and I had this conversation. I was like, right, I think the silliest. I would always go for the silliest thing, and Baden would be in the corner, and I'd just look over and he'd be like, yeah, okay, fine, you can do that. But it was Joe. Joe is a proper tenor. so he can hit
Quite
all
cheap.
those high notes. But very good. Don't want to break a tenner. So he can sing. He can hit all those high notes. I was not really interested in him hitting those high notes. Yes, he can, and he blends perfectly because they're all very very good singers.
Talented singers, yes.
Very talented singers.
I mean, I should say briefly, I saw Joe in Radical.
Right.
And he did pop off Michelangelo when it was in Edinburgh last year. So,
Yes.
yeah, he's certainly got the singing chops.
Definitely the singing chops. And so I was like, right, I know you can sing. And it was really nice hearing that when it blended all together, and of course he sings that solo song. But what I want is a little bit different. And so I don't know if you noticed in this version of Wilton's, but every opportunity that there is for Joe to go, yeah, like that over the top, we've completely added it in. And it got to the point where Joe was like, look, this is great, but I don't think I can sustain this for...
Oh, really? It was too much almost?
Well, I was getting him to do it 7 times in the show, and Baden was like, yeah, okay, I think it's a little bit much. So we went back to rule of threes, and, he only does it 3 times, and that sort of stuff.
Well, it does work.
Well, I thought it did. And it also gives him... He comes out at the end, there's the end of Act 1, kind sort of thing, there is a...
The Les Miserables montage.
The Les Miserables montage,
yes.
exactly, where all the separate songs come together.
Yeah.
And at the end, Dave steps forward and he goes, I don't care. And I thought, I've never known that to get a laugh, that one. And I think it's just because so much is happening, your attention is drawn to so many places.
And the song, when you were doing it in year 1 and 2, is just that little bit smaller and
less bombastic.
Yeah.
And if we're adding more stuff going on, we need to add something in just to make that really sing.
Yeah. And it's a payoff, isn't it? To make a payoff work, you've got to set it up.
Yes, precisely. And so that's, we... and so there's lots of sort of videos of me like in rehearsal getting everybody to do all their consonances and then pointing at Joe so we can hit stratospheric notes and all that sort of thing. And I actually really loved it. Well, first and foremost, I would have missed not doing it this year, and it was lovely to be back in.
You're still all over it. Your fingerprints are still going to be all over it.
That would be amazing. I mean, well, I would like to have played a very small part once they've all gone and done it, and to watch the playful process happening in real time and being slightly outside of it.
I mean, that must be quite curious for you, though.
It's taught me a lot about directing.
Go on.
Because
normal directing rather than musical directing, or both.
Because both kind of. I've done a little bit of directing before, and what I really realised was that it's not stand there, do this, do what I say. It's like, right, well, what do you think? And then you just let everyone's ideas go, and then you just choose.
You tailor it.
All you're doing is tailoring it, but it is fundamentally a creation that they have. And a great example of this is Ash. So Ash KB plays Dr. Acula.
Oh yes.
I love their interpretation of it.
Very delicious slice of stage.
Very delicious slice of stage.
Yes.
So much so they sort of career themselves off of the sort of the stage rake to land. And we had a very, very serious conversation where I was like, are you sure you don't need knee pads? Like, we brought in knee pads and stuff. And they were like, no, it's absolutely fine. It's hamstrings of steel.
It's not your hamstrings I'm worried about.
Well, yeah, quite. But they really, and they're a very playful actor, very playful actor. And so they were just coming up with all of this sort of stuff all over the time. And the same thing happened with regards to singing. And so my thing was, do whatever you want to do, because everything you're doing is delicious. Just make sure that you're understood. And the important thing for that, diction, consonants, especially in a space like Wilton's where diction tends to go, right? If you're because in Edinburgh it's more lecture theatres and that sort of stuff.
Slightly smaller venues. And far be it from me to say, but Potty the Plant usually does quite well in terms of audience turnout. It does, because it's a brilliant show, so you may say this. Yes.
But it does mean that there's more buffer in terms of acoustically.
Yeah, that'll be me. I see what you're saying. I agree. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and Wilton's it's a music hall, but it's a big old venue, and it's a stage 1 musical. It really, it's the earliest phase.
Well,
so they become more like an auditorium as we would recognise it. If you go to Hackney Empire, which is an old musical, it feels like a theatre.
Yes.
Just had room for more bars. Whereas it feels, Wilton still feels a little bit like an assembly room.
Yes, especially in terms of it's got
gallery.
The gallery.
Yeah.
The gallery is a big, and we want to make sure that everything is hit, especially because Potty the Plant.
Lovely consonants.
Lots of consonants. And so I turned into consonant man, and I'm sort of sitting there in the auditorium, I want to hear your consonants.
To be honest, it would be lovely to hear Noel Coward do the score, to be honest.
Wouldn't that be beautiful? So yeah, it's
Tuesday.
Please don't add that into my list of impressions. But it was.
So that was No Coward.
That was very good, very good. Yeah. So, but overall, it made it a beautiful experience, and I for all I can talk about it, my first real experience of musical directing a show in a specific space, especially like Wilton's, with a group of people that I trust implicitly. You know, they could go away and they could. My big point was like, if it's a choice, just make it a choice. Any choice you want to make, just make it a choice. Yeah. And if the choice is I'm going to use this bit and I'm not going to say any consonants. If it's done for hilarious effect,
if it
go
works,
for it.
Yeah.
If it works,
as long as there's some comprehension, the audience has got to understand what's going on.
Yes, precisely. And the person who will definitely call that out is Aidan, who will be sitting at the back by the sort of lighting desk, going, "Didn't get that." You know,
I had the great joy. I went to see it twice at Wilton's. I met you there
yes.
on the first occasion, which I think was the Wednesday night. It was. And then I went again on the Saturday night. And I had the great pleasure of watching Aidan run up and down that gallery because he seemed to be acting as messenger as well. So,
yes.
You know, goodness me, he also did some steps. Yeah, it's a terrific show, and it's brought me never-ending amounts of pleasure. And it's really interesting to me that I've now seen it so many times in different places, and it still makes me laugh, and it still makes me. I still enjoy it because I think but it's also interesting to know why, and I think it's because it's the energy. It's the subversion. It's the fact that it is still sort of organically growing, but every iteration has something slightly different. This is a slightly longer version, slightly different cast.
It's got someone with a potty hat that comes on halfway through.
Yeah. I mean, it is Ash, isn't it?
It's Ash.
Yes, it is.
It's Ash, and that costume change, I think, is about 15 seconds.
Whoa.
It was very interesting to see the head being built, because the head was being built during rehearsals. Sort of this
big potty head.
Potty head. Big sort of polystyrene-esque, you know. And then all of a sudden it went on, and there you have it. You have, again, Potty singing a very, very sincere song, and then this happens in the background. Yeah.
Which is both, it's saying to the audience visually we're trying to be sincere, and yet at the same time it's completely undercutting it. It's what I've loved all the way through on Potty. But I do want to talk about other parts of your career, so I'm sure we'll touch again on Potty in a minute, but let's go back to the very beginning. What did you read at university, your very first degree?
History.
Fine. And was there you learnt... Well, I suspect you've always been a funny man, but that's when you became a comedian? That's when you started writing sketches and perform. Is that right?
I think that's correct. My dad, as many people do, was like, you need to go to university and get a proper job.
Get a trade, son.
Get a trade,
yes, I touched that. Yes.
Yes. Every time sort of I used to not know where I was going. It was like, we could always either go down the mines or go into plumbing, and the mines have been closed since, however, so it's plumbing for you, son. But so then I said, okay, where do I want to go?
This wasn't Kent, was it?
It was quite. I ended up going, and I was very lucky. I got into Oxford, and the reason I wanted to go to Oxford was because Michael Palin.
So can I say you weren't lucky? You're a very, very intelligent man. Yes,
very kind. I wanted to go specifically because Michael Palin went.
Yes.
And I wanted to be Michael Palin. And about a year in, I realised that the post of Michael Palin was already taken by Michael Palin.
Because he's still available.
Because he's still around. Yes, exactly. So I went there.
But Palin is incredibly versatile in his own right. So what is it? The comedy elements of Michael Palin you wanted, or was it actually the affability, the intellect? What aspects were you trying to emulate, or was? Because he's like David Attenborough. It's very difficult to dislike Michael Palin. There's a kind of sort of loveliness about some of these people.
I think it was the affability that really stuck with me. It's become. Every actor has affirmations that you do because it's a hard industry to work in, and one of them is just to be interested and be nice to people. And I think that's what he was. He's still with us. Yeah. He's very good at doing.
What he's known
for,
quite. Yes.
What he's known for. I was lucky enough to meet him because he came to Oxford, and it was lovely. I mean, if you walk away from an interaction with someone, you go, "Oh, they're lovely."
Yes.
That can only be positive.
And you remember them positively in that way ever. So a connection really cements the memory, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course. And of course, I met him as a fan. I met him. Hello, can you? We were doing a sketch show, so I joined the Oxford version of the Footlights. It's called the Oxford Review.
Pretty famous in its own right.
Thank you. But we were doing a sketch show, and he signed my sketch show poster.
Fab.
Excellent. Very, very good.
Because you did it for a couple of years, didn't you?
I did. I went up to the Fringe.
Do they still have smokers or not?
No, they don't. I'm afraid.
Pity. You see the kind of history books I've been reading.
It was a great time. I could have gone and done more musicals, but I think I wanted to go up to it was the Edinburgh Fringe. I mean, it holds.
It does
a certain je ne sais quoi, I guess.
As they say in Scotland.
As they say, je ne sais quoi. Again, not one for the accent books.
Your showreel isn't exactly being enhanced.
Yes, exactly. I think that is. But. Yeah, it was, and so we went up to the Fringe,
But you said you made a decision to be more into comedy than acting, but acting was on the cards.
Acting was definitely on the cards. In fact, that was where I first met Joe Winter. We were in a musical together in Covent Garden.
Go on, tell me more.
A musical version of Anna Karenina.
Excellent. I mean, if you wanted consonants, that's a good one.
Yes, exactly. A musical version of it.
I always thought Carry On Anna Karenina would have been a great film if they'd only had time to make that one in the 70s.
Or if the Hollywood, because Hollywood have to do it first for them to get the sets.
Oh, that's true.
The train,
yes.
yeah,
you know your stuff. You're very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've impressed me a lot today. Quite against expectation.
But see, low expectations, that's always the key, you see. But yeah, so we that was when we first worked together. He was, of course, the lead, and I was the comic stooge, I think. And it's been the same ever since, really. But yeah, then I made a very big decision. That was what I wanted to do, to start doing comedy. And then I got up to the Fringe, and as I'm sure you will agree, it was the sort of single greatest artistic thing that's ever happened.
It's marvellous.
You walk around, out of every nook and cranny and pub and broom cupboard, something is going on.
And it'll expand your mind in so many ways. You know, there's a show this year which I think it's just called, what's it called? It's called something like Toast, or the Toast Club, or something like. And the description is simply
Toast.
Well, no, it is one sentence rather than one word, but it is something like, someone in the room will have had the most toast today, and we're going to find out who. That's it.
Me and the Pottycast have talked about this. I think it's on Aidan's, because Aidan's always very good at looking at
spotting.
Things. He's spotted that, so they're going to go and see it.
Oh, well, so am I.
Oh, very well, we'll see you there.
Yeah.
Did you see Fancy Rat last year?
No, that sounds good.
Oh, it was in the yurts. That might not mean very much to listeners, but...
Well, they're tents, aren't they?
Yeah, the tents areas. And we saw it outside on an A4 sheet of paper poster, Fancy Rat, no context. We went, it was the single greatest thing I've ever seen. I can't describe it. It was just two very, very, very funny comedians going, Fancy Rat, like that for an hour. We went back the next day. I just went to talk to my parents. No sign of them.
Oh.
No sign of them.
A pop-up show?
Yeah, a pop-up show. Even the poster had disappeared. Now, obviously they had some online presence and they were in the programme, but, that ruins the story. They never saw them again. That sort of... and they are a truly phenomenal pair of artists. So if you're listening, Fancy Rat,
we love you.
We love you, Fancy Rat.
You'll be aware of the young man dressed as an old man dressed as a gorilla sits in a rocking chair for 50. Have you done that?
When I was saying, that was the thing that was in my head, that poster, the young man sits in an old man with a rocking chair. Oh, what a veritable cornucopia of artistic...
He only does one show a year now, but I saw him years ago, quite early on in the run for him, and I assume it's for him. It's difficult to tell under the gorilla costume, but what I remember most was in those days, because people were still working out how to understand him and appreciate him. It hadn't quite got cult status yet, so people were responding to it, and it was interesting watching a room. What was more interesting than watching the stage was watching the room and watching the people in the room reacting to things that he did, because basically he rocks in a chair and then occasionally will do something different, like he'll hold a rock, or he'll do a double rock, or he'll have a banana and carry on rocking. Or something will happen which just ever so slightly micro change the routine. Yeah. And the audience would start talking to each other, and then people would ask back, and then there might be call outs to each other. I think he's doing that. And then when he does move, everyone suddenly concentrates on the stage again. It's a real study, or it was a real study in psychological group behaviour. You can just treat it oddly as an experiment. It was fabulous. Wow. Or it's just a man dressed in
a young man dressed in an old man dressed. But it was that. I entered into that, and all of a sudden...
I can see why you were drawn to the Edinburgh Fringe.
Yes, particularly. And it was that, and I thought, yes. And I was doing a sketch show there, and that was very, very fun. And then that was, I think, 2019, and then of course COVID happened.
I don't know what you mean. What is COVID? Would you speak? It's such an obscure reference.
Yeah, and so I actually ended up doing my final university exams in the front room of my parents' house.
Oh, right. A well-known story at the time. Yeah,
precisely. And it was only afterwards that I wanted to go back and do the Fringe, and that was what Potty the Plant gave me the access to do. But all the way through, I was doing other stuff. So when you saw me last year, we had Potty the Plant, Fringe the musical, and then I was actually in another sketch show.
Oh, were you? So you keep your finger in?
Yeah, it was called.
I wish I'd known.
I would have loved to have invited you. I don't know. But anyway,
next time.
Yep. But we had applied late to the free Fringe, and as a result, we had the last remaining spot.
Did you?
Which was the room above Bar 50. I don't know if you know it.
Not off the top of my head. If you tell me what it was called,
it was one of the greatest venues in Edinburgh, in that it had 9.5 seats.
Oh.
Yes.
So a vent and his companion.
A vent and his companion, indeed. And we were on at 9:45 in the morning.
Oh.
We were the worst slot in.
Great comedy timing.
Great comedy timing. And you know what? I'm happy to say we sold out.
Did you?
Because all of Potty came and my mum and dad, and that was all 10 seats. Yeah, exactly.
I suppose Potty counts as half.
That's precisely. So but it was me and a friend.
I'm pleased to hear that you keep your finger in that pie. Actually, that's.
It was.
Yeah, because you are a genuinely funny man. I think it's
Thank you.
No. Well, you impressed me for that first time, and you've done nothing but amuse me ever since. And deliberately, not. I saw you in the street. I just laughed.
It was hilarious. Yeah, exactly. Some of us are in the gutter, but some of us are staring at the shit. Yeah, no, you can't put that on there.
I can. There's no problem with that. Yeah, quite. What I didn't like was the fact you were looking at me at the time.
Yeah, but so and that was me and a flatmate, and we were like, are we funny? There's only one way to find out. And we went, and we had a relatively good reception.
But the other thing about this is means you're a writer.
Yes.
And people forget that part of performance, particularly if you're writing sketch shows and you're the author of the sketches.
Yeah.
But actually, writing is difficult. Writing comedy is very difficult. I think writing sketches is incredibly difficult because it eats up ideas and you need a solution.
And you need to be quick.
Yes.
If you're not in, minute and a half, 2 minutes, then people will lose interest.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's odd, though. You can do it in different ways, but I'm a great fan of vintage television, and you watch sketches from Monty Python, Michael Palin, or actually Carol Burnett in America, and some of her sketches seem to last 10 to 15 minutes.
But sometimes, do you remember there was that one, and this is very obscure, in the Flying Circus, where they had, and now a segment on trees, tree number 42, the larch. Yes, exactly. And that gag, that's always gone through my head, because all they have to do is do that 4 or 5 times over the course of several episodes.
Well, it's subliminal in a way, isn't it? Because they've set it up.
Yeah.
And then you forget about it because something else is happening and someone's doing a walk. Or,
exactly.
A pepper pot speaking or whatever. And then suddenly it's... you just randomly mentioned
the larch.
Yeah, the larch is the one that people remember. It must have been repeated. But it is interesting. I love the way... I like the structure of jokes. I like the different structures of jokes and what they allow you to do. And actually, but the fact a sketch show isn't just a sketch show. It isn't sketch, or it needn't be.
No.
It can be sketch, setup, small sketch,
slight callback.
Yeah, a trapdoor, I think they're called. Yeah, exactly.
Because you want by the end of it to have the audience almost knowing exactly what it's that one, and then they laugh because of that. Now, is that cheap? I don't think so. I think it's part of it.
No. It's just if it's been written and it's structured and it works, how can it be cheap?
And fine.
Yeah,
I am talking about it like it was highly successful. Like obviously there were things that didn't work, but the things that I love about Edinburgh.
Sketch show.
It was a sketch show. But that's the greatest thing about Edinburgh. I think I had a chat with other people who've taken stuff up and they're like, right, it has to be perfect before you go. Oh. And I was always of the opinion that no, it has to be there before you go, and then if they don't laugh, it's fine because you will change it tomorrow.
Yeah, or sometimes you can get a different laugh to the one you expected by a different intonation or just a different bit of business or something like that. We're back to the collaboration of theatre.
Yes,
and that's true in a sketch
and
show
the
as it
audience
is.
As much. Well, I'd say like 50%.
Well, one of my standard questions is, what did the audience teach you?
Yeah.
In your case, it's work with them and be related to them. So.
Well, yes, well, precisely. There's a large sort of element of that to it.
But no, I'm really pleased to hear that because, as I say, that means writer, and we'll talk again about writing because I know that there's you have interest in that area as well. But let's talk briefly about your singing then. So you studied history, but you had an interest in comedy and acting, and yet you're a classically trained singer. How did that happen?
I always loved. Well, I always from a young age, but I really.
I wouldn't start at an old age. That's very good.
I like Marie Von Trapp. Start at the very beginning.
Oh yes.
And
then you can shut your trap.
Very good. Oh, I like that. Yeah, that was a slow burner. That took a while.
No, you're a very fast burner. I'm enjoying this. Carry on.
I really adore choral music, and because I was in Oxford, the phenomenal thing about Oxford artistically. 40 colleges, each one of them every Sunday has a chapel.
Yes.
With an incredibly high standard of music.
So can I ask, how did you know you like this? I mean, what introduced you to it? You got to university and not where you discovered it, presumably. It was something you'd enjoyed beforehand and then this was an opportunity? Or was it university that lit the fire?
University solidified it. It was Alan Menken's The Hunchback of Notre Dame that started it.
Did it now?
Yes, of course. That was the soundtrack to my A-level studies, I think, was, Kyrie eleison all the way through. Everyone's like, he seems so chill. It's like hellfire rains in through the headphones.
So you had a vibrato in your bedroom?
Yes, very good. Goodness gracious me.
Yes, I'm so sorry. It's quite rude.
But yeah, so it was that. And then I went and I was like, oh my goodness gracious me, you're walking across quads and you can hear this music coming out. And so I joined a choir. And you sing every Sunday. It's new music every Sunday. So so it's a kind of repertory. It's repertory. Well, it's the Anglican repertory.
Yeah.
So there are some people who, if you've done it for 5-6 years, then you would tend to recognise stuff. I had no idea.
But
so
the university generation isn't 5 years.
Well, no,
is
it's
it?
actually 3. Yeah. So I joined university college choir, and you went in, and it was one of the ones that you can. There's a huge variety, and there's the ones that you have to rehearse every day, and you have to be perfectly on it, and then there's the ones where you can just rock up. This was about. Sort of in the middle, in that you could go, there was new music, the standard was suitably high, but also you would then go to the pub afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Which was, and I was
best of all
also
worlds,
in it for the social.
yeah.
But it was the fact that you could sing, you could have such close harmonies, such complex harmonies, and all of a sudden you're bobbing along musically, and then a touch paper lights, and all of a sudden all of creation is revealed to you.
Particularly if it's an Anglican church-based piece,
exactly.
It's almost literally doing that, isn't it? It's illustrating.
Yeah, it was supposed to, isn't it? It's supposed to illustrate and all of it was the sacred text. It's always the Magnificat and the Nunc Dimittis. Always, which means that even if you don't know what you're singing, you know what the words are.
Yes.
Which is good. But it was that, and that sort of really awakened something in me. And even now, that is the thing that if I am the most stressed, can bring me the most peace, is certain pieces of choral music, really. Which is very strange, considering sort of the rest of it. But the rest of what I do.
Well, I sort of understand what you're saying to that, because I have a friend who's entirely secular. In fact, he's really quite anti-religious, but he will make a point of going to Easter and particularly Christmas masses because of the music, because he finds some serenity, I think, would be and it's very clear that there's something locked into that music which can either be religious and faith-based if you want it to be, but also can be somehow humanist and humane if you want it to be, but it's got something. And the fact that everyone can come to it from a 360-degree angle is in fact actually sort of super marvellous.
Yes, beautiful. And the thing is, regardless of the religious context, you can have it within its religious context, but it was that all of these people shared some sort of spark, whether or not there is a God or all that sort of stuff. They shared some sort of spark that allows them to create something that is so sublimely beautiful, and so I feel, because it is obviously, I am English, so I feel it's a universal culture, but it's obviously a culture that I very much have access to. All of that caveated, it feels so, as you say, sublime to access that.
And it's interesting, that's such a good word as well,
Yeah, to access the sublime. My dad has a great thing, he's like, it's almost just enough to make you believe in God, almost.
Yes, but I see the point of that sentence.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
It's there.
It's inspiring in some way. What it inspires you towards then ultimately is a choice. But
and then I became aware of the fact that you can set this music to any piece of text, to any piece of... so that's, any poems. And I was doing history, so of course, you start reading all of these great, poems and all that sort of stuff.
So putting new words to the original music, is that what we're saying?
New music to the original words.
Oh, right, okay.
So anybody can do that, and a lot of more modern composers start to do that. And it was just discovering that all of a sudden there was this sort of world of harmony that was underneath everything.
Now, there's a suggestion here, isn't there, that because we've not really spoken about your musical prowess, but the fact that you were singing and were able to harmonise and went in at, shall we call it, the middle level, so not at the baby level. Did you know already that you were musical?
Yeah,
you did.
So.
Yeah.
I did.
And how did that manifest?
It was during my GCSEs. I had a teacher, and it's always that.
Just as well. That's the best way of doing it.
Well, I had so, but it's always a teacher, isn't it? Always. I think, in everyone's, and you have someone who inspires you. And he said, I was playing the piano at the time and the violin. Because my grandmother was...
Clever if you can do it.
Well, yeah, exactly. At the same time, with feet.
Right.
My grandmother was very much of the opinion that, she was a folkie. And she was like, it's a form of protest to learn the instruments, and therefore, in terms of sort of good anti-government protest, you need to learn an instrument. And then through my GCSEs, my teacher went...
rock up with a grand piano. Why not?
Here's what I wrote earlier. My teacher said, you can either go and do grades, I'd got to grade 5 at that point, or you can have fun. And would you like this as an outlet for fun, or would you like this as an outlet to study? And I said fun, and so he taught me jazz.
Oh yeah, well you won't look back.
Well, yes, and I haven't learned the piano from that period on in terms of theory or practice, in terms of physical ABRSM grades, because I realised that the point of a piano is to make yourself look cool at parties, because it's one step up from playing Wonderwall on the guitar.
It's more sophisticated.
And, well, exactly. So you're like, here's a bit of Queen, exactly. And then you go from being the nerdy kid to being the nerdy musical kid.
But it is a different status.
Yeah, there you go. In the social hierarchies of school. But then I got to university, and all of a sudden, if you say that you study music at Oxford and someone goes in there, then you're a virtuoso. So the only way to really sort of cement myself as a niche was to go, well, I'm not all of that, but I really enjoy it, and I'm immersed in it, and I love all this idea, and it really got to me because I was speaking to people who were like, oh, I want to write stuff, but I'm not the virtuoso. I can't do that.
Anything other than that, you can't do it. But of course, that's not true, is it?
Of course, it isn't true.
No.
And actually, that's what Baden really instilled in me. Was it was like, hang on a minute, he had an idea and he just wrote it, and then he put it on, and wait, that's how it actually works.
Yeah.
Actually, that's how it's worked for thousands of years. That people have just, well, maybe not thousands of years, but that people have just had an idea and done it.
Irving Berlin couldn't transpose. So he had a special piano built with a handle on it, a gear stick, to take it up to the black notes, basically. That's now, I think, in a great collection in one of the, is it Carnegie or so? I can't remember. There's some collection in America where that's preserved for the nation.
That's phenomenal. Yeah. And I know that Mel Brooks sort of hummed into a tape recorder.
Oh, does he?
For the producers. Yeah. And Lionel Bart famously
did much the same, I think.
Did much the same. Yeah. He sort of hummed it to someone. And it was like, wait a minute.
Making music is not necessarily formal.
No. Working in this very sort of formal setting, where you had to have a background and you had to know what you were talking about. And I think what I have done since has sort of given me a sense of pedigree, but it's always a sense of like, yeah, but all of this is just structure that someone has come along afterwards and put on it.
Well, yeah, I mean, we could have a lovely conversation here, and maybe another day we will, about the role of the orchestrator and indeed the musical director.
I also when we get to more writing, I will also have a shout out, because it's about the orchestration is what 50-60% of the feeling more.
Well, I've always said it. I think Jonathan Tunick is the sound of Sondheim.
Yes,
and I make a joke, but I'd love to know what a Sondheim musical would sound like if it was done by the Salvation Army Band, because it would just feel very different. But you've just said something I find fascinating, that actually your love was fun and therefore jazz, and yet classical choral work is very far from that. I might almost say they're on the spectrum ends to a degree. I do accept that you were talking about playing with harmonies and discovering things like that, which isn't jazz itself, but there's an element of that in jazz. So there's obviously overlap, and I'm not the man to speak about this because I don't have the musical terms at my fingertips. I love music, but I can't do it. I'm always drawn to the words and the narratives first, because music is that magical thing which beyond me, sadly. But were you aware that there's some kind of contrast or differential between the two, or the status, or does it just all come naturally to you? And do they interlock? For you, is it just one thing?
Well, I think this is also the thing. I'm very aware of where I sit in. When you have that phenomenon where you are on the wrong side of the Dunning-Kruger curve.
So I don't. So you may have to explain.
I know just enough to know that I am not.
Oh, right.
Good.
Yeah.
Right. So I wouldn't describe myself as a jazz musician. I wouldn't describe myself as a choral composer, really, because I don't have that kind of pedigree. But I play. I know enough of it to do it. Yeah, to be able to think that this should be good. In terms of jazz,
and you also know when it's bad.
Yeah,
because that's also important.
Yes. Well, I'm always of the opinion that in order to be as accessible to as many people as possible, it's not about look how good I am at writing music.
Oh no.
It's about what feels great, what conveys the emotion that you want to convey. Because if you're sitting there going, "Oh, aren't I great using microtones?" then you've lost people.
Yeah, if no one understands what that is or can understand or can relate to it.
Then what's the point?
Yeah, music without understanding is noise.
Yeah, precisely. And
I can do that bit. Yeah, it's the old. I'm reminded of the old joke about what's the best sound you can get out of a viola.
What, breaking it?
Yes, indeed. Yes.
It's always
it's snobby. Jokes. Yes, it's snobby, isn't it? Really. But
no. I have to say, there's a real. Oh no, because if I say this might sound snobby, and I don't mean it that way. What I mean is that it's best to not know what you don't know. Because if you know that there are rules, then you won't.
Oh, this isn't snobby at all. I agree with you 100% on this.
Yeah.
Oh, formal training is a wonderful thing and can help you do X, but you can still do wonderful things, but they are Y through a different means.
Yeah.
And actually, if you can make the two work together, that's even better. But
the point of the formal training is to more be able to do what your original inclination was bringing.
There's a perfect example in real life. Are you aware of the violin duets between Stefan Grappelli and Yehudi Menuhin?
No, but I only know of Yehudi Menuhin, of course, through the Morgan and Wise sketch.
Yehudi Menuhin was a classically trained violinist and could play to music, but could not improvise. Stefan Grappelli was a great jazz violinist of the 30s and onwards and could improvise. And they met one day on an episode of Parkinson, a British chat show from the 1970s, and were persuaded to duet. They'd obviously been prepared because Yehudi Menuhin could only work to pre-written music, but it was beautiful and wonderful and inspired. It was so successful and people clamoured for more. 7 albums came out of it. But
Wow.
it had to be orchestrated and arranged for Yehudi Menuhin because he was incredibly talented and skillful in the thing that he did, and he wasn't in the thing he couldn't do, which in this case is the jazz, which, if you like, in this spectrum that we're talking about, is the untrained element. And Stefan Grappelli could do all the improvise, so he didn't need to spend so much time preparing. But together, and it was together, they made sublime music. We've mentioned the word sublime already today, and the public agreed and it was accessible. But it was two different routes to get to something really delicious, and neither route is better than the other. No. Because it wouldn't have sounded the same if Yehudi Menuhin wasn't there, and it wouldn't have sounded the same if Stefan Grappelli wasn't there. But they were never going to have met at class because they weren't doing it that way. So I think as long as all routes are considered to be acceptable, as long as the outcome of the product is okay, then Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, and nothing should ever deter you from thinking that you can't, from thinking that you can do it, right?
Yeah.
There should never be a barrier to entry.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that would be artificial, actually. Yeah.
Well, exactly. Artificial and gatekeeping and all of that sort of stuff.
And also, and forgive me, I hope you don't mind, I'm going to bring this back to you a little bit, because if you're I won't say a jack of all trades, but if you've got a lot of skill sets, then actually sometimes taking a formal path up one is going to close the others. Whereas actually a slightly more broad, I'm not saying you've had formal training in some and in others less, but actually you've managed to keep the door open on all of those, and that will allow you the fusion.
Or the ability to say, I want to do this other thing, but maybe this is for a different time, but I have had formal training. I did my master's at the Royal Academy of Music.
Yeah, which is as formal as it gets.
Which is formal as it gets, exactly, but specifically in musical theatre. And that was, first of all, the best year of my life, but also one of the things it taught me to do was to know who I am as a person and who I am as a performer and what that means.
As in having a voice, or
having a voice.
More rounded than that even?
Slightly more rounded than that, because it was about not trying to be somebody else as a performer. You go into drama school with a lot of preconceived about what performing is, and the best thing about it was I came out with better technique, being able to not hurt myself when I was going into things, which I didn't have before, but also the knowledge that this is who I am, and this is what I can bring, and this is what I'm good at. And if I'm not good at other things, well, I can work on them, but it's a marathon, not a sprint, and therefore the knowledge that I have now is enough. And that's enough, and that's all that's needed. And the great thing about coming out of that specifically was to kind of know what I don't know. So if I think, this is really good, something that I'm writing here could use this, I don't know how to do this, but I know somebody who does, and I go and have a conversation with them, and then
then you do know as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we're all better for it, and that's the
win-win.
Great thing about the collaborative art, right? It then comes out of collaboration.
It's the joy of theatre in all its senses, and music and all the arts. The arts, actually.
The arts, being it. This has got very abstract very quickly.
Yes. Well, that's an art too.
Yeah, very good.
Are we speaking Pollux?
I think we might be. There's definitely a sort of a fishy scent in the air for Pollock.
Well, Zach, I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's been beautifully wide-ranging, and it's not finished yet. But for the time being, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your insights about your own creativity, and I look forward to further conversations in the future.
I look forward to it too. Thank you very much.
Musical talk. And there we are. That's Zach Burns, talking to us about his career so far, and of course his involvement in Potty the Plant, one of the great musicals of the last few years, a real cult classic, which you can see again this summer at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. If you want to see it there, it's running all the way from the 30th of July to the 24th of August, except on the 12th, when everyone is entitled to a day off. If you haven't had a chance to see Potty the Plant, do take this opportunity at this year's Edinburgh Festival Fringe. And don't forget to look at the Fringe website, that's www.edfringe.com, to book tickets for Potty the Plant, or for Pop Off Michelangelo, which was our pick of the Fringe in 2024, and which is back again this year in 2025, or any of the many, many musicals which are available for you to see at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, which is the largest festival of the arts in the world. And a huge chunk of that, of course, is musical theatre. And if you want to find out more about Zach Burns and what he can offer, go along to his various websites. The first is his personal one, zachburns.co.uk. Zach is spelt with a C, by the way, so that's ZACHBURNS.co.uk. And that particularly specialises in Zach's musical coaching. But you can find out a lot more about him from there. You can also find out what he's done and hire him on the Backstage musical. That's www.backstage.com. Look under Zach Burns. And like everyone in the world, he has an Instagram account, Zach Burns Official. And you can see lots of photographs and find out a lot more about what he's doing and the things he's involved in. And, of course, another way of finding out more about Zach is to tune in again next week to hear the second part of this extensive conversation with this truly talented and very funny man. As I said at the beginning of the episode, next week we're going to be concentrating on his performance in the role of Dom in Fringe the musical, one of the big shows at last year's Edinburgh Festival Fringe, and we'll be talking about For All Time, the musical that he's currently developing and writing with writing partner Ollie Adcock. And there'll be a chance to hear a song from that score. So plenty to come back for. And that trailer for next week, I think, ushers in the end of this week's episode. So do join us again then, or whenever, for another edition of Musical Talk. And don't forget to look at what the Edinburgh Festival Fringe might have on offer for you. So until we meet again, pip pip, goodbye. This episode of Musical Talk edited and presented by Thos Ribbits. Copyright Musical Talk 2025. To find out more about the world of Musical Talk and listen to past episodes, go along to our website, www.musicaltalk.co.uk, or subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your favourite podcasts. And follow us on all the usual social media networks.
I've got to think about this. Yeah, this might be one where you might need to edit out to make me sound like a genius, as you put it.
No, very easily done.
I don't know, Jeff.
A time for crime. Tuesday? Tuesday is my favourite line in the whole of Potty. Right.
It all happens on a Tuesday.